My girlfriend, named Isabella, spent a lifetime inventing a time machine. She wanted to go back and win back her first love. I secretly followed her, and that's when I saw her the woman I'd painstakingly taught how to love someone holding her first love's hand, saying softly, "I didn't know how to love before and I hurt you, but now I've learned it." The day after we traveled back, I saw Isabella. It was at Ryan's birthday party. She appeared in the private room, holding a cake she'd baked herself and a carefully chosen gift. Beneath the soft glow of the candles, her gaze was focused and full of affection. The romantic atmosphere instantly peaked. Everyone gathered around, waiting for Ryan to make a wish and blow out the candles, then started egging them on to kiss. I stood quietly at the very edge of the crowd and watched Ryan, gift in hand, lean down and kiss Isabella lightly on the cheek. My roommate, standing next to me, introduced her. "That's Ryan's girlfriend. Isn't she stunning? She's not just gorgeous, she's incredibly thoughtful, considerate, attentive, and always keeps a respectful distance from other guys. Absolutely perfect." Silently, I watched Isabella smile tenderly at Ryan. Then I lowered my gaze and quietly replied to my friend, "Indeed, mature, reliable, very good at taking care of people." After all, I was the one who spent 5 years and countless hours teaching her. Bit by bit, the original Isabella wasn't like this at all. She was bad-tempered, impatient, impulsive, easily angered, irritable, and arrogant. Her relationship with Ryan, lasting less than 2 years, ended with him venting all his frustrations before falling for her friend. Isabella couldn't accept it, so she spent years researching a time machine, learned everything I taught her about loving someone, and then without hesitation, abandoned me to travel back to her sophomore year. She and Ryan had just gotten together. Even though our 5-year anniversary was just a day away back then, she couldn't wait. Now we were complete strangers. Ryan was the birthday boy, so naturally, the conversation revolved around him and Isabella. Someone asked him how to find such a perfect girlfriend. Someone else asked Isabella if she had any friends as beautiful as her. Someone even joked half seriously, "You know the saying, one sows and another reaps. Isabella is so attentive and considerate. Could it be her ex taught her all that?" Isabella didn't get annoyed. She just smiled faintly, then took Ryan's hand as if making a confession or perhaps a promise. "I don't have an ex. Ryan was my first love, and he's the only one I've ever loved. Of course, she didn't have an ex before him, because I only got together with Isabella the year after they broke up. I wasn't the one who soured. I was the one who came after. But that didn't stop her from using all the ways I taught her to love me on Ryan." The lights flickered and dimmed in the room. The crowd shifted, so she never saw me standing in the corner. Not until after the cake was cut, when Ryan was handing out slices and introducing her to his friends. Isabella stood before me, our eyes met. I can't describe the look on her face the moment she saw me. Her smile froze. A flicker of inexplicable panic crossed her eyes, but she quickly composed herself. Then, as Ryan introduced me, saying, "This is Jason, my classmate," she stared blankly at me. Lost in thought, I maintained a perfectly polite, faint smile, watching Ryan turn his head towards her, frowning slightly as he asked, "What's wrong? Do you two know each other?" Isabella finally snapped back, handed me the small slice of cake she was holding, and said coolly, distantly, "No, we don't." Clutching the cake, I sat down on a single armchair and looked towards Isabella, who had returned to the center of the crowd. Under the flashing, shifting lights, she looked enchanting and lovely, her features delicate, truly breathtakingly beautiful, especially her eyes, deep as ink. When she looked at someone intently with focus, she always appeared both innocent and deeply affectionate. That's why, during our 5 years together, no matter how angry or upset I was, the moment I saw her face, the moment she just looked at me quietly and softly called my name, Jason, I'd immediately surrender, forgiving her effortlessly. The small cake in my hand gave off a faint scent of orange blossom. My roommate, chewing on his spoon, mumbled, "Jason, you gotta try this. It's unbelievably good. She put so much effort into it." Great. Now my standards for a girlfriend just went up another notch. I curved my lips slightly and took a small bite. A very familiar taste. I had taught Isabella how to make it. I'd spent half a month patiently guiding her, step by step, as she tried again and again until she mastered it. Back then she had looked at me earnestly and said, "Jason, once I learn, I'll bake you a cake myself for every single one of your birthdays." She learned, but she never once made one for me. Actually, in the original timeline, my first encounter with Isabella wasn't at this birthday party. I didn't really know Ryan well. He'd invited the whole class, and I hadn't planned on going, but my roommate dragged me along for the fun. So, in the original timeline, I left early after dropping off the gift and giving my birthday wishes. Consequently, I missed Isabella, who arrived late. It was only later that night, back in the dorm, that my roommates mentioned her. "Jason, you left early. You missed Ryan's girlfriend. Total knockout. Too bad. She seemed kind of cold and distant. Looked annoyed the whole party. Personality aside, they looked good together." I wasn't particularly curious and generally uninterested in other people's affairs, let alone some other guy's girlfriend. So after hearing this, I just smiled dismissively and didn't pay it any more mind. Nor did I ask for her name. It wasn't until much later, shortly after Isabella and I got together, that I happened to see a photo in her study and realized she was that beautiful girl. I hadn't seen Ryan's girlfriend, but I didn't care. After all, who doesn't have a past? Yet now we were back in the past, and unlike the original timeline, this time almost everyone was praising Isabella. Perhaps the festive atmosphere around them made my corner feel particularly lonely, filled with an indescribable mix of emotions. I unconsciously drank a few more glasses of fruit wine. In a tipsy haze, I momentarily couldn't tell if this time travel was real or not. I got up and went out to the balcony, letting the wind blow on me for a long time. When I felt clear and returned, the crowd had dispersed. My fingers rested on the half-open door of the private room. I saw Isabella kneeling in front of Ryan, who was passed out drunk on the sofa. She held his hand gently and said softly, "I didn't know how to love before and I hurt you. But now I've learned it." I had to admit, Isabella, with her exceptional talent for learning, could master anything she set her mind to. So after that birthday party, I started hearing frequently about all the things Isabella did for Ryan, like peeling shrimp and deboning fish for him at meals, or making handmade gifts to create little romantic moments. Oh, and she occasionally came to sit in on classes with Ryan. As for interactions between Isabella and me since traveling back, there had only been that one time at Ryan's birthday party. Until today. My roommate and Ryan were in the same guitar club, which was organizing a team-building hike up Mount Tamalpais. My roommate begged me to come along and take photos for him. "Bro, please, I love your composition, lighting, and color style. I'll treat you to a huge meal when we get back." After his persistent pleading, I agreed. Carrying my camera, I went with him to the meeting point, and there I saw Isabella accompanying Ryan. She was wearing a black and white tracksuit, standing in the crowd, head tilted slightly up, listening intently as Ryan spoke. Perhaps my gaze lingered on her too long, because just before she turned her head towards me, I impassively shifted my eyes away. My roommate exaggerated and introduced my photography skills to his companions. "Jason, self-taught photography master. His lighting is incredible, top-tier composition." I was amused and politely addressed the smiling students. "Just an amateur. If anyone needs photos, I'm happy to help." So for the rest of the trip, people kept offering me snacks in exchange for taking their pictures, until Ryan pulled Isabella over and asked me, "Jason, Could you take one for us too? Holding my camera, I smiled and nodded, found a suitable spot, and aimed the lens at them. But before I could press the shutter, I heard my roommate standing nearby ask loudly, "Isabella, why aren't you smiling?" "Look at Jason here." Smile. Silently, I waited for the moment Isabella forced us to smile and quickly snapped a few shots. Later on the bus ride back, we were looking through the photos together. After accepting everyone's polite and cheerful compliments, we finally got to the few pictures my roommate had taken of me. They were actually quite good, except for one, where the focus had accidentally landed on the face of a passerby walking behind me. It was a girl in a light blue windbreaker, her eyes crinkled in a smile as if greeting someone. Amidst the cheerful chatter, someone suddenly pointed at the photo and blurted out, "What's that saying online? You don't know each other, but you're captured in the same frame. Maybe in another dimension you actually do know each other." The smile on my face finally faded completely after hearing that. He was right. In the original timeline, I did know this girl. Her name was Sophia. My first love. I actually hadn't seen her for a very, very long time. Not since she died on our second anniversary. It felt like my life had been permanently stuck on the day she died, paused, suspended in midair. Now time had reversed, and we hadn't met yet. My wandering thoughts were jolted back by a sudden break. The camera slipped from my grasp due to inertia, but Isabella, sitting diagonally in front of me, caught it with quick reflexes. After the intense jolt, I took a moment to calm down. Just as I was about to ask for it back, I noticed she was frowning, staring intently at that photo. The next second, my roommate leaned over to look, and his surprised voice rang out unexpectedly. "Isabella, she looks a lot like you." I didn't know what Isabella thought in that instant. Her fingers suddenly tightened, but she was indeed a substitute. Regarding Isabella and me getting together, it was actually her idea. But I knew better than anyone. Isabella wasn't Sophia. No matter how similar, she wasn't her. So when we first got together, I felt a degree of guilt and apology, because my only motive was to see her face. It wasn't until I accidentally learned that Ryan was her first love and heard her drunkenly say, "Once I learn how to love someone, I'll go find you," that I belatedly understood what she meant when she told me, "I don't know how to love. Can you teach me how to love you?" She didn't love me. We were both using each other. So I began to use her as a substitute with a clear conscience. I started teaching her the way Sophia had loved me. I finally understood why in so many fantasy stories, after the protagonist's lover dies, a mere illusion can trap them, knowing full well it's not the real person, yet willingly sinking deeper. I was also acutely aware that this was undoubtedly like drinking poison to quench thirst, but fate, just when I was about to give up, led me to see the scattered notes in her study about wormholes, black holes, the speed of light, about the clock paradox, time reversal, time travelers, and a sentence seemingly jotted down casually, "Travelers can only travel into their own past bodies." In that instant, my heart suddenly raced. An incredible hypothesis inexplicably formed in my mind. Actually, after getting together with Isabella, the deepest impression she left on me wasn't her inability to love, but her intelligence and extreme kind of brilliance. The walls covered in certificates and trophies, her idol as a physics prodigy, all testified to her smooth and glorious path, but it also fostered a certain uncontrollable arrogance in her. She didn't understand how to humble herself to love someone in a relationship until she broke up with Ryan. That was probably the only problem she couldn't solve, so she obsessively sought any means to find the answer and then go back to conquer it. Honestly, I didn't know if Isabella's obsession was Ryan, the unattainable, or simply the only failure in her life. I didn't know if she really intended to reverse time and travel back as I suspected. Let alone if she could succeed. But what if? So I pretended to know nothing and continued to be with her, year after year, surpassing the time she had been with Ryan and also surpassing the time I had been with Sophia, until the day before our TH anniversary. I called her, Isabella. Let's talk when you get back. I wanted to break up. Surprisingly, she was silent on the other end for a long time, then said softly, Jason, I might not be able to spend the TH anniversary with you. I'm sorry. I frowned, about to say it didn't matter, but she hung up. Standing there, holding my phone for a few seconds, I suddenly realized what she meant. Almost without hesitation, I rushed to her lab. It was already empty. And just like that, we went from lovers to strangers. She had turned in her perfect answer sheet, becoming the model girlfriend everyone talked about, and I had the chance to save Sophia, to change her inevitable fate. Just as I didn't care about Isabella's past with Ryan, she didn't care who I'd been with. So I thought Isabella wouldn't know that Sophia was my first love. The camera was finally handed back to me. Isabella said nothing, just turned her head and silently gazed out the window. I had no time for other thoughts, my eyes fixed on the photo, my mind filled with Sophia. Suddenly, I understood something. No matter how much I tried to maintain the original timeline, waiting for our first meeting at the university mixer, the current path had already diverged due to one small change after another. Like this photo she accidentally appeared in. Like the next day, in our shared elective class, when she sat down next to me. I've heard people say that music and scent are vessels for memory. It's true, because the moment Sophia sat down, the familiar, faint orange blossom fragrance struck my heart, almost faster than any conscious reaction. It pulled forth long, thin threads of sharp, aching pain. I sat rigidly at the desk, letting the tide of past memories surge interwoven romantic scenes, vivid fragments of our time together, right up until the second before the car crash, the steering wheel turning towards my side, then dying in front of me. Just when I loved her the most, the professor's question broke through my thoughts. She called my name in the silent classroom. I slowly stood up, half a beat too late, unable to utter a single word. Because I hadn't been listening at all, I remembered this professor. She was known in the department for calling on other students to help those who couldn't answer. So after I stood there silently for half a minute, she scanned the sea of lowered heads and asked deliberately, Is there any student willing to help answer? At that moment, I still hadn't fully emerged from the sorrowful memories. I actually thought it might be okay if no one stood up. I could just keep standing there. And when I looked down, I could keep seeing Sophia beside me, out of the corner of my eye without her noticing. Her long fingers rested on a black pen, flipping oddly through her book. Then suddenly she stood up and said clearly, I will. I was a bit stunned, but what surprised me even more was when the professor adjusted her glasses, looked up and asked, Is the young man in the back also volunteering to answer? Sophia and I turned around almost simultaneously. 2 rows behind us, Isabella, who had come to class with Ryan, had also stood up. Instantly, countless eyes fell on her. She didn't look at me, just stared straight ahead calmly and said, No, I'm going to the restroom. She went to the restroom. So, it was Sophia who saved me. After sitting down, I was just about to turn and thank her when she suddenly leaned closer and whispered very softly, Hey, your eyes are so red. You're not gonna cry, are you? It's just one question. Don't cry. Faced with her sudden closeness, I blinked for a second before slowly processing it. But I didn't tell her that the stinging redness in my eyes wasn't because I couldn't answer the question. Later, using gratitude as an excuse, I offered to buy her lunch. After class, I took her to a nearby noodle shop, Mama Chen's Beef Noodles, and expertly blurted out to the owner, 2 bowls of beef noodles. No scallions. Turning around, I saw Sophia looking at me with an amused expression. She asked, How did you know I don't like scallions either? I froze for a moment, unsure how to explain. Then she said, Although I don't know who you were thinking of when you ordered, making you state the preference out of habit. I should still introduce myself. Saying this, she extended her right hand towards me, looked me seriously in the eye and said, "Hi, Jason. I'm Sophia, a first-year grad student in medicine at Stanford." I knew she was from Stanford next door, and I also knew she was actually covering the class for a friend. And this noodle shop, located between the two universities Berkeley and Stanford, was the place we frequented most often in the original timeline when we were together. Although it had been a long time, I still vividly remembered the last time I came here, 2 weeks after Sophia died. There's a term in psychology called the emotional isolation defense mechanism, which activates to prevent the brain from collapsing when facing extreme grief and pain. So initially facing Sophia's death, facing the fact that I would never see her or hear her voice again, I was numb calm, feeling nothing at all, staring at the grayscale photo on her tombstone at Cypress Lawn Memorial Park. I didn't shed a single tear. I just lay awake every night unable to sleep, lucidly replaying every scene from our past until one ordinary evening, I came to this noodle shop and habitually ordered 2 bowls of beef noodles, no scallions. Then, when the noodles were served, looking at the empty seat across from me, tears suddenly fell without warning. The emotions that had been sealed off felt like they were suddenly ripped open, followed by a pain spreading from my heart throughout my body, and tears that wouldn't stop. In the end, after forcing myself to finish the entire bowl, I threw it all up in extreme grief. After that, I never came back to this noodle shop. Fortunately, now back at the beginning, the accident hadn't happened. Sophia wasn't dead, and everything could still be changed. Looking at the hand extended before me, I gently took it and explained earnestly, "I wasn't thinking of anyone. It's just my preference too. I misspoke." Saying 2 bowls, she tilted her head and laughed. "Well, what a coincidence. From now on, it'll always be 2 bowls." Then, in the end, it was Sophia who paid. To my surprise, she smiled and held out her phone. "Paid already. How about this? Add me on WeChat, and you can transfer it back to me." I added her and sent the money. She returned it. She said, "This one's on me. Could you do me a favor?" They had a free clinic event, and she asked me to help take photos. A week later, I went with her, camera in hand, to a nearby community center in Palo Alto, documenting them providing consultations. In the photos, Sophia patiently answered residents' questions, checked blood pressure and blood sugar for the elderly, and chatted with children. The midday sun fell on her white coat, seemingly coating her in a faint, gentle light, both dazzling and warm. If Isabella was an unattainable flower on a high peak, then Sophia was a grand, warm autumn sun. They were never the same. As the free clinic was winding down, everyone was chatting with the elderly and children. I saw Sophia, surrounded by a group of kids walking over. I found she was making bamboo-joined puppets for them. Amidst the cheerful chirping of "Sophia, Sophia!" she lowered her head, holding thin green bamboo pieces, her slender, fair fingers deftly threading and knotting. Then she handed them out one by one. "This one's for little Luke. This one's for little Sophia." I casually snapped a few photos. As I looked down at them, I suddenly heard Sophia's voice, looking up. I saw her holding out a beautiful bamboo puppet to me, saying, "Here, everyone who sees gets one. This one's for little Jason." Later, after several more interactions, Sophia and I became friends who could grab meals together. She helped me get votes when I entered the most beautiful sunset photography contest. When we went to a pottery cafe together, she earnestly sculpted various human organs, and then, just as the couple opposite us finally finished a standard pair of hearts, she'd hold up her creation and declare, "Look, a perfect heart." I'd put down the scattered limbs I was working on, give the speechless couple an awkward smile, and pull Sophia to a different table. She also introduced me to her lab mates, pointing out her senior colleagues, now out of their white coats. She introduced them one by one. Looking at those familiar faces, I greeted them politely. I remembered the petite, elegant senior female student transformed into a cool, handsome biker chick outside the lab. I also remembered the composed senior male student was actually a top player in the esports world. As for my appearance and Sophia's introduction, my friend, Jason, they all looked at me with knowing, friendly smiles and a teasing, oh expression. Honestly, they didn't say anything explicit, but it felt like they said everything. My ears grew warm under their gaze. Sophia stepped in front of me. And guys, please spare me. Tone down the looks a bit. They rested their chins on their hands and continued smiling at me. Easy, easy, just call us senior brother and sister. And we'll all be family soon. Eventually, I became friends with them too. We played escape rooms together. Went to the Intraversity Music Festival at Golden Gate Park. I got so immersed in the stable, cheerful life that I almost forgot I had traveled back in time until I ran into Isabella again. Probably because all my attention and thoughts were focused on Sophia during that period, I automatically tuned out my roommate's gossip in the dorm. So, seeing Isabella made me suddenly realize I hadn't heard her name in a long time. It was at an outdoor barbecue spot, Smoky Joe's, on a summer evening. I was sitting with Sophia and her lab mates, playing Truth or Dare when I suddenly felt an intense gaze on me. Subconsciously, I turned to look and met Isabella's eyes. She was at another table with Ryan and another couple. It seemed almost deliberate. Ryan was holding Isabella's hand, talking animatedly, without checking if she was listening, laughing happily about something, while the girl across from him had a tense face, lips pressed tightly together, silent. The atmosphere seemed harmonious yet strangely subtle. Isabella's stare made me feel uneasy, like pins and needles on my back. Fortunately, the girl opposite Ryan suddenly stood up, clearly unhappy, and said she wasn't eating anymore. They were leaving. Holding the grilled chicken leg Sophia had handed me, I heard Ryan, leaning slightly against Isabella, slurring drunkenly as they walked away. Isabella, I like you the most. As they passed our table, my gaze briefly swept over them. I noticed that Ryan, both in action and words, really did seem to like her a lot. But she didn't look happy. This question was answered soon enough. Ryan broke up with her. My roommate from the guitar club sighed regretfully, during our nightly gossip session, said, "Did you guys hear? Ryan and Isabella broke up." The pen in my hand stopped abruptly. I suddenly remembered a night in the original timeline when my roommate had mentioned Ryan breaking up with his girlfriend in the same way. Heck then, he said Ryan accused Isabella of not knowing how to love, couldn't stand being with her anymore, insisted on breaking up, and soon after went public with Isabella's friend. But now, Isabella had clearly become the perfect girlfriend in everyone's eyes. I didn't understand why they still broke up. My roommate's explanation was that Ryan got bored. Isabella loved him like a pre-programmed robot, which was dull. Then my roommate opened his social media feed. Look, he's already announced his new relationship, and it's Isabella's friend again. I stared at the post, speechless. It was the girl with the unhappy expression from the barbecue that night. Then I heard my roommate lower his voice conspiratorially. Actually, the real reason is Ryan never really liked Isabella. He only got together with her despite his childhood crush, trying to make her jealous. Yeah, that crush is Isabella's friend, his current girlfriend. So, whether Isabella knew how to laugh or not, Ryan didn't care at all, because they were destined to break up eventually. And Isabella, she thought she had found the right answer, only to discover the question itself was wrong. Amidst sighs of sympathy, another roommate asked, "So, Isabella just agreed? Didn't try to win him back? She seemed to like Ryan so much." "Nope. Heard she accepted it very calmly, didn't say anything to try and keep him." I found this somewhat absurd, instinctively unwilling to accept this outcome, because it made me feel that what was meant to happen would happen regardless. This feeling peaked a week later when I saw Isabella again. I found a lost child in a large shopping mall downtown. The Stanford Shopping Center. After taking her to the information desk, I waited with her until her mother arrived. She was a very beautiful, elegant woman, wearing an expensive-looking navy blue cheongsam. After taking the child's hand, she insisted on thanking me by treating me to tea at the tea house downstairs. Despite my repeated refusals, she insisted, saying her conscience wouldn't be clear otherwise. Following her, past a carved wooden screen, I saw Isabella sitting at a square table, wearing a beige sweater and holding a Celadon cup. Distant memories instantly resurfaced, although the timing was off. My first meeting with Isabella in the original timeline happened exactly because I found this child, except back then, it was Isabella who came to pick up the child, her cousin's daughter, who occasionally visited from abroad. Isabella's parents were both researchers, rarely around, so she grew up quite independent and emotionally distant from her family. During our 5 years together, I hardly ever met her relatives. Thus, this cousin and niece whom I'd only met once had faded from my memory over time. I never expected that coming back. The same situation would occur again, just slightly altered. The girl's mother explained that this was the cousin she was meeting, then turned to Isabella and said, "This young man helped find her. His name is Jason." As she finished, Isabella put down her teacup, looked over and said unhurriedly, I know him." I don't know how to describe my state of mind then. When the mother learned Isabella and I were from the same university, she exclaimed delightedly, "Wow, what a coincidence." Then she looked curiously between Isabella and me, asking, "One in physics, one in finance. How did you two meet?" The private room fell silent. I shifted my gaze from the gently swaying irises across the room and said calmly, "We don't really know each other. She was my classmate's girlfriend. We met once, the next second." Isabella added, "We broke up. Oh, so now she was the ex-girlfriend." Sensing my lack of enthusiasm, the girl's mother didn't press further about me and started chatting with Isabella instead. I picked up a pastry and focused on playing with the little girl beside me, ignoring their conversation until just before we left. I heard the mother ask Isabella meaningfully, "Coming back this time, I noticed you seem to have changed a lot. Your personality is much more subdued. Why? Is it because of that boy you broke up with?" Isabella shook her head gently. "No, he didn't like me, and I didn't like him either." "Oh, but you still seem quite sad." Isabella was silent for a few seconds, her voice slightly hoarse, because I belatedly realized, I think I missed out on someone I truly liked. I didn't know what she meant by that, nor did I want to know. But after that, our encounters started becoming more frequent, getting caught under the same eaves during a downpour, ending up at the same table in the dining hall. Even the campus ginger cat I often fed suddenly darted over to her feet one day. Too many coincidences stopped being coincidences, so I started going out less, stopped eating in the dining hall, and stopped feeding the ginger cat. After a while, Isabella intercepted me in the library corridor I always used. She asked, seemingly puzzled, "Jason, are you avoiding me?" Yes, I was avoiding her. After all, having come back, she and I had no relationship anymore, and I didn't want one. So I replied calmly, "And in what capacity are you standing here questioning me?" "As my classmate's ex-girlfriend." She looked up at me for a long time, her face paling slightly, before finally stepping aside to let me pass. I thought someone as proud as her probably wouldn't seek me out again. But her breakup, our encounters, and various other events happening sooner or later, but mirroring the original timeline, filled me with a strong sense of unease. I started frequently dreaming about the car crash from the original timeline. In the dream, I was back on my second anniversary with Sophia. My arm was injured from playing basketball, so I was in the passenger seat while she drove. I was telling her about a travel show I'd recently watched and places I wanted to visit in the future. She listened quietly, occasionally glancing at me with gentle eyes and saying, "Okay, whatever you want. Just as we were talking about how to celebrate future anniversaries, a truck suddenly ran a red light and sped across the intersection on University Avenue. Actually, there wasn't much traffic on that road then, not many people either. If the brakes had worked, the accident could have been avoided. But the brakes failed. Sophia unhesitatingly wrenched the steering wheel towards my side, giving me the only possible chance of survival. After the violent impact, I lost consciousness for a few seconds. When I opened my eyes again, I was in the car, the smell of blood sharp and pungent. My whole body ate too much to utter a sound. Through blurred vision, I saw a long shard of debris piercing Sophia's chest. She was weak, repeatedly pleading with the onlookers gathering around. Save him. Save him first. Please save him first. Later, they pulled me out through the shattered window. The last thing I saw before losing consciousness was the car exploding. The investigation results were released quickly. Besides the truck running the red light due to driver fatigue, Sophia's car's brake system had been deliberately tampered with. The perpetrator was a man burdened with millions in debt from online loans. Unable to repay, he developed a desire for revenge against society and sabotaged the brake systems of nearly all the cars parked in that area near campus. That's why the accident rate was extremely high during that period, with numerous casualties. Lying in my hospital bed at Stanford Hospital, I numbly scrolled through the news on my phone, quietly listening to the comforting words from Sophia's lab mates when they visited. Everyone told me to look forward, to move on. But I didn't understand. If I moved on, what about Sophia? Left behind here, I was startled awake by a shrill alarm clock. Opening my eyes, I stared blankly at the ceiling. Noticing the dampness at the corners of my eyes, I realized I had been crying again. Every detail of that car crash was practically etched into my bones, including the criminal who sabotaged the brakes. But there was nothing I could do right now. Before he tampered with the brakes, he was just an ordinary person in debt. I didn't dare approach him beforehand and risk causing other unforeseen changes. I could only keep the alterations to a minimum and wait for the day he committed the crime. And while waiting, Sophia and I got together. Before that happened, I actually sensed signs she was about to confess her feelings. It started when a senior girl from the photography club asked me to pretend to be her boyfriend to ward off a guy who kept pestering her. In the elegant, quiet restaurant, the garden court, she put her arm around me and told the guy opposite us, "I really do have a boyfriend. Look, his name is Jason." My acting wasn't great. I was afraid I'd blow it if I spoke, so I just forced a smile and nodded along. The next second, I inadvertently glanced past the frosted glass partition and saw Sophia sitting at another table with her friend. She had probably seen the whole thing. When our eyes met, she quickly looked down, ignored her friend's question, and just quietly ate her food. That night, I saw her social media post a picture of a cracked heart model with the caption, "Heartbroken." The next day, I brought her favorite plum cakes, a special order from Shine Key Bakery, to find her in the sunset-drenched hallway. She stood before me, looking dejected, her usual bright smile gone. I watched her silently take a bite of the cake and asked, "Is it sweet?" "No, it's bitter." I nodded in understanding, murmured a soft "oh," then changed the subject, mentioning a new Peking duck restaurant nearby, great china, and asking if she wanted to try it. She stared silently at the floor for a moment, her voice low. "If we go eat together, won't your girlfriend mind?" I feigned surprise. You mean the senior girl from yesterday?" I was just helping her fend off unwanted attention. How was it? Was my acting good enough to fool even you? I paused, seeing her eyes gradually brighten, then continued. "But even if I did have a girlfriend, just having a meal with a friend, she probably wouldn't mind." "Then, would you mind having a girlfriend?" She suddenly interrupted, looking at me nervously. Our eyes met. I smiled faintly and said lightly, "Well, that depends on whether the plum cake is sweet." I did wait in line for 2 hours to buy it. She froze for a second and stuffed the remaining half of the cake into her mouth and mumbled indistinctly, "Sweet. It's so sweet it could kill me." That night, she posted again a photo of my side profile with the caption, "The rest of my life." And that's how Sophia and I got together. None of the romantic confession scenes from novels or dramas, just two hearts holding each other. After that, like any other campus couple, we spent a period of ordinary but happy time together, until the day before the date I had marked on my calendar. Outside an old apartment complex near campus, the time of the crime. The sabotaged brakes. But that day was no longer our second anniversary, and due to various changes, her car wasn't parked there. The ones I needed to save were the others. Initially, I was apprehensive, worried about unexpected complications, but reality turned out surprisingly smooth. Not wanting to get entangled in the crime and face interrogations, I reported to the police that I had lost a watch worth in that area. Last seen around, The police quickly reviewed the security footage and saw a suspicious man repeatedly appearing near multiple cars, holding tools. Logically, suspicion and investigation followed, none of which involved me anymore. As for the watch, the next day, I told the police I found it in a trash can. I also heard the news that the brakes of several cars had been tampered with. That night, the criminal was caught. The thing I had worried about for so long seemed to be resolved. But deep down, I still felt uneasy. This unease lingered until 2 weeks later, the day Sophia and I went to see a movie at the Century Cinema. As we were walking slowly through the crowd, a man with a scar on his right cheek brushed past me. I caught a glimpse of a knife hidden in his sleeve. He was heading towards a pregnant woman. In a split second, my actions outpaced my thoughts. By the time I realized what was happening, I had already shielded the pregnant woman, taking the knife for her. Lying on the ground, I finally knew what I had forgotten. That scarred man was a fugitive. In the original timeline, he died during his escape in one of the car crashes caused by the brake failures. But in this timeline, the crashes were prevented. He survived. Chaos erupted around me. Sophia knelt beside me, saying something, her eyes reed-rimmed. But I couldn't hear anything anymore. It felt like I walked through a thick fog for a long, long time. Eventually arriving at the park next to my childhood home in Fremont. Back when because of my illness, I had to take hormone medication long-term, which made me very overweight. Other kids would often circle around me, chanting taunts. Fat pig, ugly freak. Fat pig, ugly freak. I'd cover my ears and try to explain. I'm not a fat pig. I'm sick. I'll get better. I'm not a fat pig. No one listened. They just grinned, watching me crouch on the ground, shouting even louder until a girl appeared, like an angel descending from heaven. She coolly warned them that if anyone said another word, she'd hang them from a tree and let birds poop on them. After they ran off screaming, the girl knelt in front of me. I didn't dare look up. She comforted me softly. Don't be afraid. Chase them all away. I slowly raised my head to look at her gentle face and whispered, Miss, I'm not a fat pig. I'm sick. She smiled warmly at me. I know, little Jason. You're just sick. You'll get better. After that day, every time I went to the park, I saw her jogging. No one else wanted to play with me, only her. But she was too beautiful. So beautiful it made me feel self-conscious and sad. I couldn't help asking her, Miss, what if I never get better? She ruffled my hair, hummed thoughtfully, and said, Then I'll become a doctor. I'll cure you. From our first meeting to our parting, it was only days. That was the last thing she said to me, right after I heard her mother calling from a distance. Sophia Chen, time for dinner. The next day, my dad's affair was discovered. My mom took me and moved away immediately. I never saw Sophia again. When we met again, she was already a medical student standing in a crowd, as beautiful and radiant as ever, and my illness was cured. Later, we unexpectedly reconnected at the university mixer, got to know each other, understood each other, got together. The person I had secretly loved for nearly years loved me back. And then, before I even had the chance to ask if she remembered me, she died. Fortunately, this time, I saved her. If this was the price, then I was willing to pay it. I returned to the thick, swirling fog. I vaguely sensed someone talking beside me, but couldn't react. Faintly, I seemed to hear Sophia's voice. She sounded helpless, asking someone nearby. Her voice broken and hoarse. I studied medicine for so long. Why can't I save him? Professor Davis. What do I do? When I regained consciousness again, the hospital room was quiet. Someone was sitting by the bed. Using all my strength, I could only lift my eyelids slightly. I could only vaguely make out her face. It looked like Sophia and also like Isabella. I tried hard to distinguish for a long time unsuccessfully, until she spoke. If I hadn't traveled back, would the butterfly effect not have happened, and you wouldn't have gotten hurt? Or maybe you came back too, which is why you saved that pregnant woman. She paused, then laughed self-deprecatingly. I never knew. In the other timeline, you like me because of her? Or was it because my time travel indirectly leads you to fall in love with her in this timeline? I guess I'll never know the answer to that question. But, Jason, I regret it. All this time I thought all problems could be solved through steady reasoning. Calculation, but it turns out loving someone isn't like that. It's unsolvable, just like it seems I can never make you. Who fell in love with her? Fall in love with me again. I wasn't particularly keen on recalling the 5 years I spent with Isabella, but a small incident inexplicably surfaced in my mind. It was probably the winter of our 3rd year together. I was on the phone with her on my way home from my part-time job when I accidentally bumped into someone. I cried out as my phone flew from my hand and fell precisely through the narrow slit of a storm drain. Extremely frustrated, I used the little cash I had on me to ride around in a taxi all night. It wasn't until the next day that I found out Isabella had spent the entire night looking for me. I didn't know why she did that, but a relationship started with impure motives between two people was bound to fail. Saying anything more now was pointless. I woke up completely on an ordinary evening. Opening my eyes, I saw Sophia, head bowed, patiently wiping my fingers one by one. I turned my head towards her and called out softly, "Sophia." The wiping motion stopped abruptly. She didn't look up, her knuckles gripping the towel so tightly they turned white. After a moment of silence, she stood up and strode out of the room. Staring at the white ceiling, I counted silently in my head. When I reached, she came back in. The corners of her eyes were red. After a full checkup confirmed I was okay. On the day I was discharged, Sophia took me to her apartment. Thus began the routine of her meticulously taking care of me, her days revolving around me. I felt apologetic and said, "I'm sorry. We just got together, and I'm already causing you so much trouble." She seemed to laugh out of exasperation, ruffled my hair, placed a bowl of soup in front of me and feigned anger. "Then hurry up and drink it. Get better quickly." I frowned and shook my head. My ABS already disappeared from lying around. "Drinking this will make it worse." She lost her temper completely then, scooped up a spoonful of soup, brought it to my lips and coaxed softly, "Come on, little Jason, open up. Listen to drive. Sophia, healthy, is the most handsome." And so amid Sophia's mix of exasperation and coaxing, I recovered. I saw Isabella again 6 months later at Safeway. I was holding a few oranges, looking for Sophia, when one accidentally rolled away. It kept rolling and rolling until someone bent down, stopped it, and picked it up. It was Isabella. She walked towards me step by step and placed the orange back in my arms. In the silent eye contact that followed, I sincerely said to her, "Isabella, Thank you. She looked at me, complex emotions swirling in her eyes, but in the end she said nothing and turned to leave. As I watched her retreating back, I suddenly heard Sophia's voice from behind me. Jason. I quickly answered, "Coming," and brushed past Isabella, just as she seemed about to speak. Just like how in this vast, boundless universe we might have brief encounters, but ultimately we just drift further and further apart. That evening back home, while tidying up the study, I noticed a photo frame in the glass cabinet. Inside was a hand-drawn cartoon figure, each chubby little boy with a speech bubble above his head containing the word miss. I took the drawing to Sophia and asked her when she had recognized me. She smiled, a slight arch in her eyebrow, and casually flipped the frame over. I froze. It was a photo of her, but the focus was on me, walking past in the background. The date stamp on it was the exact day of our hike up Mount Tamalpais, so that's why she sat down next to me the following day. And from then on, our story had a new beginning,